Are you ready to take control of your life and join a community of like-minded women who are on a mission to live their best lives too? Healthier, happier, and wealthier? Then get ready to find the support and motivation you need to pursue your passions and goals. Get ready to develop the courage to step out of your comfort zone and try new things. Join the My Best Life Tribe membership today and unlock a world of opportunities, empowerment, and sisterhood. Our exclusive community offers courses, collaborations, workshops, events, and so much more. Don't wait any longer to start living your best life. Visit our website, www.drstemi.com, and become a part of something truly special. My Best Life Tribe, where women thrive together. www.drstemi.com.
Are you ready to bounce back?
Welcome to the Bouncing Back podcast with Dr. Stem, where resilience meets inspiration. Join us as we explore powerful stories of overcoming adversity, share expert insights, and discover the tools you need to bounce back in life. Whether you're facing challenges or seeking motivation, you're in the right place. Let's dive in.
Hello. In this episode, you are going to get a lot of good nuggets. But before we dive into it, I wanted to give a shout out to Afro Diva. Everybody asks me every time that I wear this jewelry that I have today, everyone asks me, where did you buy that from? So today, before we even dive into the show, let me give you the information about the Afro Diva. It's www.theafrodiva.com. That's where you can get this jewelry from. And right at the bottom, you get the website, www.theafrodiva.com. This is the month of mental health awareness. It's also a month that we are going to be supporting each other as women. Hence, I wanted to make sure that I start right there. Let's dive into today's show with our very own guest, Mercy Chogugudza. Hello, and welcome to the Bouncing Back podcast. And this is May. We are commemorating mental health awareness. And I have a special guest that I'm going to have a candid conversation on women and mental health. Welcome to the podcast, Miss Mercy Chogugudza.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and have this wonderful discussion.
Thank you. This is my sister. She is my colleague. She is my bounce back. Let me see your t-shirt again.
Here we go.
Yes, yeah. She is the #1 bounce back cheerleader, but she's also our board of directors in the Bounce Back Empowerment Services, which is a non-profit organization that is coming up. It was recently registered. So I'm so excited to have you as our guest today because this is a topic that is important to you and I and women out there.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
So here's the thing. I'm going to just tell you all a little bit about Mercy, and she will give us an insight of who she really is. My definition of Mercy is she's a daughter, she's a sister, she's a wife, she's a mother, and most of all, she's a professional in a human resources department. This is the chief human resource professional that is in that seat where she's able to support and talk about, mental health in the workplace as well. So I'm going to let you talk about you and tell us a little bit more about yourself, Mercy.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that very generous introduction of myself. I truly appreciate that. So who's Mercy? You've touched on all the things that I am. I am a mother of 2 boys. I am a wife. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm an aunt. I'm a daughter-in-law. I'm all those things that encompass most women in the African context and also just normal women in everyday life. I'm engaged in so many activities. From a workplace standpoint as well as in the community. So I genuinely love people. My love of people is what drew me into what I do, which is human resources. I love to see people. They intrigue me. The human mind intrigues me. And I always am a cheerleader for that human mind. And my approach to everything, which is rooted in the way in which I was brought up, is to treat others the way you would like to be treated. So you will see me and hear me in the human resources spaces. I talk about bringing the human in human resources. In the community spaces, I talk about being the change that you want to be. In the family setting, I'm talking about you are a reflection of what you want to see your family look like. So I tend to lead by example in all the things that I do. Um, Having grown in an African setting, yeah, as a woman who is educated, as a woman who is married, brings with it a lot of dynamics that you have to navigate on a regular basis. As you know, in our culture, family extends beyond the nucleus family.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole lot of things that you relationships that you navigate on a regular basis. I mean, 1 second you are this person, the next something else comes in. You are balancing that at the same time that you are supposed to be excelling as a woman in the workplace, where you are a leader, where you're supposed to be a mentor, you're supposed to be a coach, where you are supposed to also be a direct report to somebody else, right? You're supposed to come in and fix. So this topic really, really is close to my heart because it speaks to the dynamism or the dynamics of a woman and how powerful we are.
Thank you so much for that in-depth, explanation. So you spoke about culture. I
Mhm.
want to touch that. We're both from Zimbabwe.
Yes.
And we grew up in Zimbabwe and now are here in the United States. So there are some cultural expectations, I think, that
Mhm.
we carry as part of our human, as part of our being and well-being, but it affects us in our
Yes.
mental health as women. So let's talk
Yes.
about that a little because I know you are a firstborn, I'm a firstborn, and many a
Mhm.
time we have conversations where we are talking about, well, the blessing and burden of being a firstborn. Let's talk
Yes.
about that.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh no, it's a blessing and it's a burden. You're so right because of how our family setup is in Zimbabwe. And I'm going to talk specifically about Zimbabwe. I don't want to overextend it and say African. I'm going to be specific
Yeah.
to what I know, my lived experiences, yours and my lived experiences.
Yes. Yes.
So in the Zimbabwean society, in the Zimbabwean family, in the fabric of who makes the families, right? There is always the thing that if you are the firstborn, you've got the burden or the expectation of setting up everybody else after you. And not only just your immediate siblings, but also the extended family. If you have money and if you've made it, then that goes into first cousins, second cousins, your aunts, your grandparents. That expectation is there, and the expectations also from our parents. It's what they know, and that's how they themselves also were set up. That's how they know how to have these relationships with us and for us. So that expectation of being the firstborn has got um, societal expectations of excelling. You are the firstborn, therefore you're supposed to excel. Therefore you're supposed to do well, right? It puts a lot of pressure on anyone. It doesn't matter whether you are a female or you're a male. It's more so if you are a female nowadays, because we have broken those cultural expectations where the male in the Zimbabwean culture was mostly seen as the person who had to excel. With our parents' generation, when they gave birth to us, and with them, they started breaking some of those societal expectations, such that the girl child started being seen also as a breadwinner. The girl child started being seen also as a person who can do things, who can deliver, who can rescue the family, as you may say. So that expectation of excelling can be a lot because there's competition, right? Your parents are looking at you and they're looking at their neighbors when they're having conversations. Why don't you have a car because somebody else has got a car? Why don't you buy me a house because I was talking to so and so's mother, their daughter has bought them a house, right? And You are not just a daughter who is, in some cases, who is unmarried. You are married. There's also those expectations that come in from that family setup of your in-laws because they've got their expectations of you. If you excel too much to them, right, they might look at it negatively depending on what those relationships are. They either can accept that, hey, we've got a trailblazer of a daughter-in-law, or they can look at it as, oh, you're challenging us, right? This is what they do if they are home. This is not what we do in our family. So there's those dynamics now that you also have to start figuring out, how do I balance those? And on top of that, you are a mother. On top of that, you're an employee. So it's those cultural expectations do put a lot of pressure on us. Submissiveness, as we know in our Zimbabwean culture, kutiwa in our Shona. Sounds akatiwa, the word they use is akatiwa. They use the word as akanyarara, mukadzi akanyarara, a woman who's quiet, a woman who's submissive. Submissiveness in our culture is seen as a trait that is applauded. But when we are here in the first world, you can't be submissive. This is a cutthroat world where I have to do things like you and I are doing right now, where we are talking about, hey, this is who I am as a woman. Applaud me, give me my flowers whilst I'm still alive because I'm able to do all these things. I'm able to have all these accomplishments. We are running corporations. We are running families. We are raising children who are the next leaders in this culture. So there's a whole lot of that is going on. So yes, and then you are looking at your friends who don't have the cultural burden like we do. They are doing things that you also want to do, but sometimes you're pulled back because you have to be submissive to your husband. You have to be submissive to your relatives. You have to be submissive. And in your submissiveness, they're also expecting you to hand out, to dole out assistance in any form and type that can happen. So it's a conflicted existence, one that you have to learn to. I'm going to jump into the next part where you just have to figure out what do your boundaries look like. Boundaries.
Don't start that one because we're going to have to talk about the boundaries as well. You're right. You're right. So you said it well. Because as a firstborn, there are expectations that since we were little girls, we were told everything that you do, your siblings are looking, the community is looking. So you
Yes.
learn to not only please,
Yes.
the parents, but to please the young ones, have more say
Yes.
into, oh, so you're doing that and you're supposed to be my example and I'm supposed to be following you. So
Exactly.
you learn to literally be afraid of what people will say and what people, would say about what you're doing with your life. So
It's so
self-sabotage
true.
is really big
Yep.
thing
Yep.
also on us as firstborns, where we get in our own way because of the
Mm-hmm.
expectations that were instilled in us, that we
Yep.
have to do well so that our siblings and our community can be proud of us and the family can be proud of us. You're holding the torch
Yes.
for the family. It wasn't until my own siblings were the ones that released me. And they said, wait a minute, because they didn't understand. They're like,
Uh-huh.
wait a minute.
Uh-huh.
Why is it that you have to check in with us
Yes.
and check in, and tell us everything that you're doing as if you're seeking approval from us?
Right.
And I was seeking approval from them. And they're like, but
Yes.
we don't seek approval from you.
From you. Yeah. You are so right. It happens a lot, where our parents by default have
Yes,
just allowed us to be that second set of parenting.
yes.
You know, I have my parents asking my siblings, my younger siblings, um, have you spoken to Mercy?
Yeah.
What did she say? And of late, I've just been like you after you and I have been talking about it. And after we wrote that book where we're talking about the bounce back, we're talking about setting boundaries.
Setbacks to
Like, no,
comebacks. Yeah.
yes. I was like, I have to start living by what I have said in
Yes.
that book. I have to start creating those boundaries. Now I'm learning to push back, like, no, mom and dad, you need to start having these conversations with your children because they need to
Exactly.
hear from you. Because I am raising my own grown children. My
Mhm.
children are grown now, they are young adults,
Yeah.
and I'm starting to have different set of conversations with them,
Yes.
right? So I am also learning to unlearn some of those firstborn tendencies that I
Exactly.
had that were being installed on me by society. And in my case, it's actually interesting and complicated because both my husband and I are firstborns.
Oh,
So
yeah.
there is no one who's checking anybody like, hey, we are making mistakes and learning along the way. But the one
Yes.
thing that we've both recognized is
Yeah.
that we don't want to bring that firstborn burden on our firstborn.
Yes.
So we shield them from some of these expectations, but we also have raw conversations with them because they ask questions
Yeah.
when they see us doing some of these, offering some of these assistance that we're
Mm-hmm.
offering to our extended family. Why are you doing that? Because they are raised in this culture which tells them that the nucleus family is what's important.
Mm-hmm.
This extended family bit to them is very confusing.
Yes.
And even now, as young men, no matter how much I try and explain to them, I think they've accepted it, but they don't. They understand. They accepted it, but they don't understand it.
Yes.
And every single time they hear me saying, I want to help somebody, they're asking me why. Isn't
Yeah.
there somebody else who
Yeah.
can do that? I had
Exactly.
a similar conversation with my oldest son recently, and he was just checking me on some of those things. So yes,
Yeah.
um, that expectation is real. We're parenting when we are young. We are learning to parent when we're teenagers,
Yeah.
right? As firstborns. And now that our parents have gone older, we are parenting them as well. So if you want to look at it, the majority of our lifespan is spent parenting.
Parenting. Yes. Yes. It's interesting when I
And then
was doing,
who parents you?
yeah, that's true. That's true. When I was doing my master's degree in Boston, right, we had to do clinicals and had to go in a
Mhm,
placement. And my first placement was in a residential program for women addicts.
mhm.
And the first person that I was assigned to had multiple personality disorder and also was bipolar. So boy,
Mhm.
she checked me. That young lady gave me so much, problems, right? But what I
Yeah.
remember vividly is what, you just said. I went in for supervision with my
Mhm.
program, director,
Yes.
Miss Gadsden, and in Boston, and she said to me, "Tell me a little bit about yourself." And I spoke to her about being the firstborn, having
Mhm.
five sisters,
Mhm.
that were
Mhm.
in Boston, and I was the mother figure and she's like, hold on. Do you
That's
have
what
any
I'm.
children?
Yes.
I said, no. So you are not the mother figure. And I said, well, my parents told me that I have to look after them and I have to make sure that everything that I do is, which was all now me. So we're
Yes.
talking to that woman out there that, yes, you were raised with the culture, but at some point you took the baton and you made it all about you now
Yes.
being that version that you were taught to be. And my sisters, bless their hearts, they never disrespected me, but that wasn't their portion to look up to me and say, well, you can tell me
Mhm.
what to do, who to date,
Mhm.
and what to do.
Yes.
No, it was like, no, do
Yes.
you. And I'm going to do me, but I know that I'm supposed to do good because you're
Yes.
doing good. But don't make it too much of a burden that I'm the one that you're doing it for. So that's the
We don't
thing
even
that,
realize. Yeah,
yes,
we
we
don't
didn't
even
realize
realize
that.
we are doing it. We
Yes,
don't even realize because we are so used to it's the way we are wired.
yes,
Societal impact. We are wired that way that we are afraid to disappoint. You see,
yes.
one of the reasons why we go back and seek, even when we're doing the right thing,
Mhm.
we're still seeking their approval. It's because nobody has approved us.
Yes, yes.
Nobody has approved us and nobody has given us that space to say, you're okay. You don't have to. So I'm so happy to hear that your siblings released you from that. And I hope that this is going
Oh,
to help a lot of us who are
but
out
here,
there
but
to
here's the thing
release.
though. Here's the thing though. Now I know better. It's
Yes,
not them that needed to release me.
it's me.
It's not
Yes,
my parents that needed to release me. I needed to release me.
yes,
I needed to acknowledge that I have done enough and I don't have to do it for anyone. I
Yep.
needed to understand that. Remember when we wrote that people pleasing chapter,
Yep.
when you wrote that chapter
Yes.
too? It was
Yes.
again, you know what, releasing from that people pleasing. We talk about self-sabotage.
Yes.
Self-sabotage means I am the one that was getting in my own way. I am the
Yes.
one that had
So
it
true.
in me that I need to walk this way. So the
Hmm.
burden is on all of us individually to
Yes.
finally get into that space where we release ourselves, we figure out who we are, we forgive
Hmm.
ourselves for having
Hmm.
given way too much
Too much. Yes.
and then
I agree.
delayed our own selves.
That is so true. That is so true. I think it's also the fact that it's not just really, but sometimes we don't have the know-how.
Yes.
It's simple when you have support in saying no. No is just two letters, N-O. And it's an art that is difficult to do or difficult to display when you don't know how to do because you're not wired to do that. You know, as women and as women firstborns, we are raised to be the mothers, the nurturers. We've just talked about that. Our nurturing. So sometimes in our nurturing, we overstep in forgetting self. And when we forget self, we get lost and we can't find ourselves. So it's very important, like you've just said, that we need to understand that we own our own life.
Yeah.
We are the authors of our own life. We are the authors of the experiences that we need to experience and that we need to experience, and that it is okay to be selfish at some point. So one of the things that I have noticed as I am going through this, sorry if I'm too ahead of you,
Yeah,
right,
that's okay.
is to realize that, hey, what is it that I need to do to unlearn this? Because it's unlearning.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter. One of the things that I want to say is that it doesn't matter what age you are. You could be in your
Yeah.
20s. The moment you realize that, hey, there's this discrepancy, this dysfunction that I'm feeling, look at it, spend time to look at it, investigate that, and figure out where that is coming from.
Mm.
And if it's coming from those societal expectations, cultural expectations, familial expectations, I urge you to just look at and figure out what is it. Start by defining and realizing that it's okay for you to say no, right? And you need to start that by just being assertive, right? Especially in our culture, the word assertive is strong because you're saying, if you're assertive, therefore she's very rude. But no, when you're being assertive, you're just being direct and being responsible for your actions and just responsible for your space. So let's start owning that, right? And the second thing is for us to just have self-compassion, which you and I were talking about, right? Treat yourself the same way you want others to treat you. View yourself in the same way that you want others to view yourself. We don't have to keep on asking for permissions from others. You see your siblings, they do things without asking you for permission. You can do the same thing too.
Yes.
So it's some of these small things that we can start doing to make the changes. It's a difficult journey. I'm
Yeah.
on that journey. I haven't arrived yet.
I know. So what I did was, it's interesting that you talk about saying no, because what I did last week, it seemed like every client that I had was talking about the difficulty of saying no. So
Yep.
I sat down and I said, you know what, let me put together a workbook that is a
Mhm.
self-paced workbook that each person, man and woman, can download and sit down and answer these
Mhm.
questions for yourself. Because guess what? It all has to do with self-belief. It all
Yes.
has to do with self doubt. It has to do with worthiness. Am I worthy? Do I
Oh,
believe in myself? Can
that's a big
I
one.
give
Yes.
myself permission to just be
Yes.
me and be the best version of myself? So it's
So true.
interesting how, you spoke about that, because those are the things that I cover in that workbook, which
Mhm.
we'll have a link at the end of this program
Awesome.
for everyone that wants to also access that, workbook for themselves. So talking about, saying no and
Mhm.
also self-doubt and worthiness, these are feelings that
Mhm.
many people, men and women, will go through within their family,
Yeah.
environment. So now let's get into the work environment and how that
Yes.
is also carried into the work environment. And I know you've been in the human resources for a very long time. Let's talk about
Yes.
the impact that it has in the workplace.
So true. So one of the main things that this shows up, this worthiness, is you hear when a young woman who does so well, who has got a promising future, is promoted. You start hearing about the imposter syndrome that shows up.
Mm, yeah.
They start doubting themselves. Do I need to be in this place? Am I worthy to be in this place? Self-doubt creeps in,
Yeah.
and you start seeing it in their deliverables at work. And if we as human resources folks, especially as women, we need to be each other's ally.
Yes.
We need to actually have our ears and eyes open to start seeing those patterns. And when they start showing up, we need to reach out and become that sister, mentor, coach to that young woman who's starting to progress, rise in their career and reach out. And it reaches out in so many things, like I've talked about the imposter syndrome. You start seeing it in withdrawal, right? Where an individual was before they got promoted, they were very vocal, they were very participative, their numbers were good in productivity. And then once they get promoted, there is that setback. And people normally look at it and they say, well, it's just because they're getting warm in their new role. I challenge us as HR professionals to reach out and really uh, have conversations and figure out and meet that individual where they are. Allyship is important. I remember when I was first promoted into the role of a director, I was working for an SDV government contracting company in Reston. I had major imposter syndrome. I remember having a conversation with my CEO, who is my former CEO, who to this day is one of my greatest allies in everything that I do. I can reach out to them any day, any minute, pick up the phone and have conversations. And I remember they told me that I was in my own way. And they told me what they saw in me because they had done like what you have just done, where somebody asked you, tell me about yourself. He asked me, how do you see yourself? My answer was, well, I see myself in 5 years' time being this. He goes, that's not what I asked you. How do you see yourself? And then I couldn't, because again, that societal voice is coming in. Remember, in Zimbabwe, we are told not to brag. You don't talk about how good you are. And I am being asked by my boss, how? And I'm like, do I say it or do I not say it?
Yeah.
But then he then said, this is how I see you. I see you doing ABC. You are this. You are a fantastic, you've got a great mind. You've got one of the brilliant minds that I've seen in a while in HR. You love people. You're good at what you do. You are a solutioner. You've got great instincts when it comes to relationships. So talk about that. Embrace that. That's what I see in you, and that's why I'm promoting you to this role. And I remember coming out of that meeting, just I cried because as an HR person, I tell others that this is what they need to do, but I had not done that for myself. I had never taken the time to stop and look at myself. Again, I take it back to those firstborn syndrome where I do everything else for everybody except myself. So I had never taken the time to stop and look at who I am and what I could do. So the rest is history. Ever since that, I started making sure that I was affirming myself. I was aligning myself with mentors and coaches in the workspace. And I challenge us women to look for those. Look for your mentors, look for your coaches, look for your allies. I'm always saying, have at least 3 people in your organization that can be truthful with you in your role in the organization, and they help you see how others see you. It's just going to help you in going on to the next steps.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And I want to add on to that. I am one of the employee assistance professionals in many, many of the, mental health insurance programs that are out
Hmm.
there. And the work that we do as employee
Yes,
assistance professionals is exactly that, to be that
yes.
support, to talk about where is this coming from? Where is the
Hmm.
fear coming from? Why, is it that you are stuck in this space where we are still seeking other people's approval? Because that's
Yes,
what we were taught. So then when you
yes,
get in there and there's one person that seems to not, go along with your leadership, then all of a sudden it takes away from everything that made you
yes,
become who you are, because now one person is being insubordinate, one person
yeah,
is challenging me, and as a result, maybe I'm not good enough. So I start to question myself. I'm not good enough.
yes.
Maybe this promotion wasn't supposed to be me. I was
Mine. Yep.
happy when I wasn't even in charge of anyone, or when I didn't have
Yes,
to meet with all these other leaders, because then I am looking at myself and I'm not good enough or as good as they are. All of those emotions, feelings is what we talk about in employee assistance, or even as a coach.
yes,
Those are the things that we talk about, so that again, you can free yourself from those holds, that happen in the workplace. And you're right. As women, that attacks us more than anything,
hmm,
because again, what are people saying? What are
hmm,
people thinking about me now?
hmm,
The way they look at me. And then, God forbid, if you're married and you have a spouse who also
yes,
don't want you to think that you are above them, or because you're promoted now, don't think that you're better than me. And yet, that's not what you're saying. You're just
yeah,
wanting to build a career so that, again, you can be a better partner in that
yes.
relationship.
A better example for your
Yeah.
kids, a better example for your children, a better example, just being you,
Yes.
just being you. And going to the EAP programs,
Yes.
it's one of the tools that I have used in organizations when I am building the benefits that support the benefits programs that supports any employee workforce. I'm a strong advocate for that EAP assistance, because I think people look at it and thinking that if I call the EAP, then it means that I'm weak. It means that I only have issues or mental health issues. No, the EAP programs these days, they offer a lot of support on a lot of levels. I have called them when I just wanted to have assistance in just having difficult conversations. Um, Again, because sometimes when you're looking um, at the levels of coaching and mentorship in our organizations, sometimes the smaller organizations,
Mhm.
that level of support might be thin or might be non-existent, because you are the person who's supposed to develop that. You also need to have somebody
Yes.
or some place where you can get that help. If
Yes.
that is not there, the EAP programs are so great to have.
Yeah.
They're so great to have. Reach out to them, and they'll give you the tools that you need to just help you navigate some of these situations that we see in the workplace.
You're right. And you know what? I like the fact that you mentioned that even human resources, can reach out. So even managers and leaders in leadership
Yeah.
positions, when you take it and, go with it and saying, you know what, let me talk to the EAP.
Hmm.
I just want to see what the program is like. They will give you the number of free sessions that your company offers. And when you
Yeah.
use it, now you can go back into the program and say to your people, guess what? I've used it. I had
Yes.
problems with my
Yes.
husband. I had problems with, self-doubt. I was doubting myself. I had problems communicating with
Yep.
my siblings. And all of a sudden,
Yes.
I didn't realize that they are now old enough, they are parents, they are
Hmm.
grandparents, and I need to step back as the firstborn.
Yes. The deputy parents, the DP.
I don't need to parent them anymore. They don't need to look up to me, but I need to have my own life and live my own life. And that's a
Yeah.
reality in many
Yes.
people's lives, right?
Yeah.
We all have
Yes.
issues. We all have issues.
That is so true. That is so true. It's also to do with one of the things that, especially in the first world,
Mhm.
our work defines us. No
Yes.
matter how much we want to, it's part of our identity. So we need to embrace that and be comfortable with that and who we are in that space. I'm not saying we should allow it to be the main identity, but it's part of the main identities that make up the whole you. And it's part of the crucial element of what makes you because of that socioeconomic provision that it brings into the you identity, into the me identity.
You're right. You're right. I want to tap into also the fear of the unknown because
Mm,
at this moment, right, we have a
yes.
lot of women that are struggling,
Ooh,
juggling it all, but they are so talented and they have these great, brilliant ideas. Some of them started already doing a little bit on the side, something on the side, and then they just
yes.
got stuck because now they are
Yes.
afraid of the unknown. Let's talk a little bit about that,
Yes.
the fear of the unknown.
It's real.
Yeah.
And it's real, especially for us as women. And I'll tell you why. And especially if you are a married woman with children, because you don't know what's ahead, what's in front. So you're afraid to take risks because you've got this responsibility that is behind you, you know. So we are limited at times to break from what we know and go into the space of the unknown because of the responsibilities
Mhm.
that we have. So one of the things that I've always said to people is when you start pivoting, start small, right? Start small. Give yourself time to really um, go back and check with yourself. You know, check back to see where are you in that comfort space, in that comfort zone. Where am I? Because there is no one who is going to give you the transcript of what tomorrow looks like. You've got to trust your gut. You've got to trust that um, this is what I need to do more so now than before. Because, okay, I'm going to dive into something else. Like right now, with all the layoffs that's taking place,
Oh
a
boy.
majority of women have been
Yeah.
impacted more so than men. And a majority of Black women have been impacted more so than any other group of people.
Yeah.
So yes, that self-doubt starts creeping in because the Black women in America, as we know them, they are the most educated group of women, right? We have a group of women that has got the most undergraduate degrees, the most master's degrees, the most postgraduate degrees, right? But then we're finding ourselves in a situation where we are in this space where there's a lot of unknown,
Mhm.
and that does play on your psyche.
Yeah.
That does play the stresses that are associated with that do have an impact on you. My advice is that let's recognize that the moment you recognize those strains, that stress, talk about it. Talk about it. Find somebody to talk about it. Find somebody to have a conversation with, because there is a very thin line between stress and mental illness, right? So we've got to be able to make sure that we are protecting ourselves. We are recognizing what some of those signs are: sleeplessness, right? Changes in our diet, um, changes in our mood swings. All those things, they are a result of us not knowing how to react to what we are dealing with. And sometimes, as we are doing that, we close ourselves to opportunities where we can pivot into other areas, right? So I I challenge us to say that let's not put our heads down. This is not the time to put our head down. It's a time to look at how can I pivot from where I am right now in my career, where I am right now in my demographics, where I am right now in my socio-economic realm. Where am I? How can I pivot to an area and support that's going to at least provide some comfort of of dealing with the unknown as it may come along.
You're right. Thank you for that. And in addition to that, let me just say something in my language, in our language, since we are from Zimbabwe together. For those of you that have been laid off, or the papers are on the window or door that you're going to be laid off, in Zimbabwe, we say, "Yave nguva yokubika sadza." And let me tell
Yes.
you what I mean by that. I don't mean having nguva yekubika sadza. It's time for you to
Literally.
cook sadza, literally, and sit in the home and now be a housewife and be the
Hmm.
submissive person. When we heard that and it was said having nguva yekubika sadza, it meant it's time for me to cook the sadza and sell it to somebody else who's
Yes.
sitting out there and thinking, what do I eat for lunch? They have the job. I don't have the job, but I can cook
Hmm.
sadza and sell it to them
Yes.
because they've got the
Yes.
money that they're getting paid for. But of course, they're going to be hungry and they need the sadza. So people
Hmm.
would now
Hmm.
start cooking sadza and
Hmm.
selling it
Hmm.
outside. Remember in the industrial
Yes.
areas?
In the
And they
industrial
would,
areas,
yes,
yes.
they would
Panama
sit.
Fifi.
What? They would sit outside and then sell
Yes.
that sadza in there, sweating.
Yes.
And this is a person that has degrees and that is educated at the university. But as they sold their sadza and built something, they were building a whole bigger restaurant outside somewhere
So
in
true. So
Haifirizi, in
true.
Kambuzuma, where they started off at the industry by the gate and they were cooking
Hmm.
the sadza and people would come lunchtime and
Yes.
cook. And then the next thing they heard that there is a restaurant called Kwasadza. And you're like, that is the same
Where did
woman
that
that
come
was
from?
selling.
Yes.
Girl, girl.
Yes. No, we've got to do that. We've got to
Yes,
do that.
we got to do
And
that.
I'm so glad you say that because
Yes.
like you look at yourself and you're like, I'm an HR person. I don't know
Yeah.
anything else. No, you do.
You
As an
do.
HR person, you were actually sitting at the realm of knowing the different skill sets that are needed for the different jobs that people do.
Yes.
So look at yourself and look and say, hey, how and where can I pivot?
Yes.
I'm loving what's happening right now with organizations like Google, Coursera, NVIDIA. They have all these free courses that they
Yeah.
have, and they're offering opportunities for reskilling, upskilling, or pivoting into new areas where you can start these small things. And that's definitely going to help you in at least the immediate fix, but also you might find that you actually like being in that space and learn something, one or two things about yourself. You know, I remember you and I were talking about it, and I was like, I'm not a person who likes selling. Oh, Sam, I don't know if I can do that and things like that. But you know what? When you stop that self-doubt, when
Yes.
you stop when you shut that voice that you have listened to all the time that tells you you cannot do, you cannot do that. When you shut it off and just listen to the environment and what the environment is telling you, I can tell you, you'll be able to see which path you need to go to. You'll be able to see clearly some of the areas where you're saying, "Oh, I'm actually good at this. I didn't realize I was good at this." Um, you extended writing to me when you and I were talking about the fact that I used to write in my journal. I used to write a lot. I used to write poems. I've got books and books and books where I would write poems back home in my journals as a young girl.
Mhm.
When I started working, I stopped doing that because I was like, now I'm working. Who cares about that? But, I found again the joy in writing because you and I have conversations. That's the allyship I'm talking about. Who are you talking to? Who's able to tap in and remind you of some of those things that you need now to help you navigate or bridge what is happening now? So, yes,
You're right. And we are going to be inviting more of you to join us in the Bounce Back book series
yes,
because that's what she's talking about. We have a Bounce Back book that comes out every year. This year, 2025, we've closed out and everybody has submitted their chapters. Yeah.
yes.
So we're starting to get chapters for next year's Bounce Back book series. And in that, as Mercy is saying, once you write and I'm a neg, I will neg you until you write something and put it back. Because a lot of you are first time writers because you
Yeah,
haven't written a book. So, and I've written over 50 books. So I
yes.
really am a great cheerleader for people to take that first step. And after you write that first chapter, after she submitted a first chapter for book one, I never had to talk to Mercy again. She's like, I'm in book two, I'm in book three. So she's in book three. And
Oh
she
no,
was,
it was an easy pivot for me because at work I'm writing policies. Writing policies at work. I'm writing
yeah,
training manuals at work, and I'm like, it's the same thing now. I'm just
yes.
refocusing it from work into something that I enjoy doing. I'm writing about things that are personal to me, things that I like doing. I like giving advice. Put it in a book. Put it in writing. So those are some of the areas in which, when you just stop for a second,
Yeah,
you can see how you can pivot.
you're
You can
right.
stop and see how you can pivot.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Just in case you're wondering, how did they get to Zimbabwe, come back in America, and then they went in the workplace, and then they went into first bonds and doing all of that? We are talking about all of that because those are the things that impact our mental health. Who
Yes.
am I? Is the question that we get back on the drawing table and ask, who am I? That
Mhm.
person that we call, and I know some of you have heard this word self-sabotage. Self-sabotage, you're like, you know what? I'm tired of hearing that word. It will continue to come until you take a look at yourself. The
Yes.
self-sabotage word will continue to come across your feed. It will come across, now as we are talking and you hear it again. I urge you
Mhm.
to take a step back and say, what is self-sabotage? Because
Yes.
sometimes self-sabotage might be the one thing that is getting in your way of you shifting from whatever environment, work environment, home environment, personal environments that you probably, need
Mhm.
to move away from so that you can now take the step into that best version of yourself.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
everything
Mhm.
has to do with mental health. Money,
Yes.
we grew up being told, oh, don't talk about money, and money is the root of all evil, and all of this. So we have these money beliefs that we grew up with. And now you start to believe, to say, wait a minute, what is my relationship with money?
With money. Yes, that's a good
Yes,
one.
right?
That's a good one. We should do that one next.
Yes. What is my relationship? Because we never get to talk about the relationship
Yeah.
with money. What do you mean, the relationship with money? And yet, money is not the root of all evil. It's what you do with the money that is the root of that evil, not the
So
money
true.
itself. Because money, I think it opens up a lot for all of us, to be able to do all of these things
True.
as well that we want to do, right?
So true. So true. So
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah.
S-
That identifying that self-identity is very, very crucial and very
Yeah.
important. One of the things that I'm seeing and I'm hearing in this space,
Yes.
as an HR person, I have the advantage of hearing so many voices, people reaching out to me in LinkedIn, just like, hey, can I talk to you? I'm going through this. One of the things that is a downside of this environment that we are in, which in a way sometimes I'm grateful because I still have the Zimbabwean uh, part of me that is
Yes.
still there, that is still vibrant, that I still cultivate. But it's the fact that people have identified themselves with the role and the job that they previously had or the career that they were in. And now, when that is taken away from you, when you were least expecting it,
Yeah.
everything else is lost.
Yeah.
And in that moment, in that place, in that space of being lost, people don't know what to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Women don't know how to navigate that. Women don't know how can I place the children, the husband, the family. There might be an illness. There's all this noise that is taking place, and all eyes are on you. I still urge you, if you're in that moment, to be selfish, because the only way you can start rising out of that spinning tunnel is to do stop, close out all the noise, reflect on yourself, truly ask yourself, who am I and what is it that I need to do next to get out of all this? So reach out to folks. Reach out to folks. Internalize what we're going through. Then we're going to go to that space where we're saying there's such a thin line between stress and mental health. So let's have conversations about this. You might not know who might give you the nuggets that is going to spark an interest, a curiosity in your ear, and help you go to the next step. And let's just be supportive of one another. Let's just be supportive and kind and be truthful. One of the things that I find is that sometimes we're not truthful with one another. I had a situation where somebody sent me their resume and I reviewed that resume and I had to tell them, like, part of the reason why you might not be getting anything is the way your resume is written. Let's revamp that and let's rewrite that. And it's okay for you to say that, and help somebody out. So in our help, let's also be truthful. And also above all, let's be kind. Let's be kind.
Well said. Well said.
Yes.
It's all about self and looking at yourself
Yes.
and re-evaluating yourself. So mental health is about taking a tally of what you are thinking, what you are feeling, what you
Mm-hmm.
are putting yourself through or allowing yourself to deal with. As Mercy said, at the beginning of this, we talked about boundaries. We didn't go right into it. We're going to do a whole different show just on boundaries because it's a
Yes.
show on its own. But
Yes.
it's important for you to also take, a notice of how you are putting boundaries. If there are any boundaries that you've put in, like I said, it's a whole show for another day that we're going to do
Yes.
because, as you can see, there is a lot that we can talk about. But
Yeah.
in this show, we wanted to just jumpstart the talk about mental health and women,
Mm-hmm.
especially how from childhood, we are building who we are. We are also building our village, as they say, of
Mm-hmm.
who is
Yes.
raising us and who's going to be raising us. And what we have said today is have a re-evaluation of your village that raised you. Because
Mm-hmm.
some were supposed to raise you from the age 0 to 5, and some were supposed to carry you from 5 to 15, and 15 to 20, but some are supposed to carry you from that adulthood into, having your own children, having
Yes.
your own families, and some are supposed to carry you into the, workplace as your career. But then some are supposed to carry you from that career into your own business. Different villages and different kind of people that you need to
Mm-hmm.
surround yourself with. That's the re-evaluation that we are encouraging you to do today as we looked at mental health and women. Any last words as we, part?
I love being a woman. I love the fact that we are strong, we are resilient, right? We are great multitaskers. And I just want you to be the best version of you that you can be. Don't compare yourself to anybody else because you're the only one who is you. You're the only one who has those lived experiences, those compositions, that DNA that is truly, truly you. Embrace it. Take time to really know yourself. Spend time being compassionate to yourself and have those conversations with others to help you. So happy mental health month. Focus on yourself. Be selfish for once, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And before we leave, I will be amiss if I also don't tell you about the sixth annual Bounce Back Empowerment
Yes.
Conference this year. We're going to be in the
Yay.
UK. We're going to be in the UK. That means
Yes.
everybody gets to take a vacation, mental health break, and go to the UK. Let's go. September 6th, we will be in the UK. Yes, we'll have something because, when I talked about it, there were ladies that were like, well, wait a minute, we're not going to have anything on Friday. We're going to put together something for you for Friday. And then we have the conference in the morning on Saturday.
Yes.
And then we have a big, huge celebration party in the evening on Saturday, September 6th. So please check out our website, www.drstemi.com. You will have a whole, lot of information as well as your speakers, that will be coming into the conference, that will be speaking at the conference this year in the UK. Bounce Back Empowerment Conference, Cheshire, United Kingdom.
Yes.
We'll see you there.
Excited times.
All right, Mercy, let's do this again very soon, okay?
Definitely.
All right, girlfriend,
Definitely.
we'll talk soon.
Yes.
All right.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Bouncing Back podcast with Dr. STEM. We hope you found today's episode inspiring and packed with valuable insights. Remember, no matter the challenges you face, resilience is within your reach. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your friends. Join us next time for more stories of strength and perseverance. Until then, keep bouncing back.